this is my work in the back, and for quite a few years now, and maybe from now on, I really like combining a couple different things. I love the idea of the three-dimensional. I like to be able to look into things, and I like the idea that most of the things in the dioramas are actually flat, made from flat images, pieces of paper, but they're made to look three-dimensional. And when I was, before I even went to kindergarten, I was making things in boxes. Like little, and I'd have my mother cut a little opening, and I'd make little stores, and there you go. And I put stuff in, the little windows, and I was always doing art according to all my friends and my various teachers. One of my favorite things in grade school was if somebody was either sick or they had a birthday, we got to make a card. And then I would immediately fold the paper in half, tear it, fold it again, make it into a little book, and then make paper dolls and little games and stuff. And that was my favorite. Well, that was the highlight for me. I lived for paper dolls. I love to cut paper. I still do. I find it actually meditative. All my little labels and stuff that I put on my boxes, I cut them all out. And people say, well, why don't you just get them printed? No, I just love it. I always have, and my girlfriends and I, none of the boys did play paper dolls, but we would go in on books of paper dolls, but no one ever wanted to cut them out. And then so I'd say, I'll cut them. So I would just sit there, and we'd be goofing around and playing, and I just would cut out page after page after page. So maybe I'm kind of digressing, but it all kind of has come together. Oh, and I was not encouraged to do. My parents thought it was cute when I was a kid and I could draw, but they couldn't stand my art teacher. That might be one of the reasons they sent me. They didn't want me to be an artist because they thought it was a, kind of a dangerous thing to be, and I'd be influenced by who knows what, So, and then, that was the whole hippie thing. I was a hippie, and I got married and had 3 kids, and I didn't do anything for 15 years. It was, not happy, but I have these 3 great kids, and I guess I decided I was going to go back to school and get my degree, go back to the U. And the first time I went, I was an art history major, and I thought, well, I'm going to go back into art. I'm going to go back and I'm going to get my degree in art. And I was discouraged by many people to do that. And I think the U wanted me, the counselor or whoever, they wanted me to get a degree in dental hygienistry. Again, nothing wrong with that. I'd probably have a lot more money now if I had done that. And benefits and a good Social Security check. But whatever. I just said, no, I have to, I just come to the point where it came back to me. It had been gone. I thought it was gone. Whatever it was that drove me when I was a child, I thought it was gone. And it came back. And now I can't stop. I just can't even stop. I don't even care as long as I can make stuff. And I'm not even sure how my degree is in painting actually, but had some really good professors. Wayne Potratz, even though he was the sculpture teacher, we just saw him a couple weeks ago. He just encouraged me, let me work in the large projects area, so I didn't have to just be with all the freshmen and stuff. And my kids sort of grew up in that old art building, picking through they weren't supposed to be there at night or anything, but I had projects to do, and what was I going to do? And, they'd pick through the garbage and the glass blowers and and my son, who was 4, saw someone using a blowtorch on a piece of wood or something and thought it was kind of cool, and then somehow he got a can of paint and did his first graffiti. He did his initial in spray paint on the sidewalks in the neighborhood because he was pretty fascinated. So they got a little bit of an education there too, and so I don't know. Started doing art fairs and started selling art and doing some shows, and had wanted to move had always been fascinated by Maiden Rock for many years. Came down there to go sailing with a friend and came, for those of you, well, probably everyone here has been there. You know, you come down that little swoop and that little house is still there, that little house that I wish I owned, you know, that little kind of shack with the tar paper. And it just came swooping down and I just thought, what is this place? And then, you know, Linda and Tom had moved down to this, or had the house down in this area, and I reconnected with Linda and met Tom, and eventually I sold my house in Minneapolis and I bought my little house in Maiden Rock. It's my studio, and it's my home also, and my gallery, and it's just kind of a one-person, I don't know, I just didn't want to be with anyone else, and I didn't want anyone else to tell me what to do. I don't have room to have big shows or anything, you know. I just want to make stuff, put it up, and people buy it, and I hope they do, and they do. And then I started making small clay pieces. Now, I had done a lot of clay in that department at the U. I really liked it. And I thought, you know, when we did our critiques and everything, I thought it was a good idea to have all of my work together. Like, I thought the stuff I was doing in clay looked like the stuff I was doing in paintings. And so when I brought that to the painting department, people thought I was just nuts. Like, we don't care what do you bring that? You know, there was that divide. Maybe it's not there now. That divide between the painters and the other people, the ceramics. And but then Kurt Hord in the clay department, he liked the idea, and so I don't know. So it was a good experience, you know. And okay, now I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Linda, help me. Well, okay, so I started working with air dry clay because I wanted to make something that I would want to buy. I wanted to make something that I wanted. And that's why I called the little clay pieces tourist art. And somehow for me, the combination of either working on dioramas, they're both kind of exacting, but you have to work fast with the clay pieces because it's wet. And then it dries, and the things that are embedded dry right in. And they've gotten pretty good at, you know, pinning it in, or, you know, making sure that it's really embedded in there. And so somehow, for me, that works with the different parts of my brain, or whatever the reason is. And I'm very influenced by Spanish colonial art. I prefer the Spanish colonial paintings of the Renaissance to the originals. I've always been more drawn to art that's a little more primitive than like the high Renaissance, you know, or even Baroque. That's just a personal preference. And I like the idea of just, I don't know, combining all the different things, you know, and I still love cutting things out or using X-Acto knife, and I like the idea of getting a three-dimensional effect with flat paper. It seems kind of like a transformation to me, like it's almost kind of miraculous. And then I love making the clay pieces, and those are maybe more whimsical, and I just collect stuff from every place. Every place. There isn't a place. If I go into a Walgreens drugstore, I might find something if I just kind of keep my eyes open. And this winter I was able to go to Mexico for 2.5 weeks, and that's pretty much all I did was just search out places and little things, and I've actually made 48 new little pieces, and some of the bigger pieces. So I'm kind of, you know, working overtime and all the time to get everything ready, and I really like medieval art. The whole medieval era. I'm just drawn to the philosophy, the religion, the thinking. There's a really good book about that by C.S. Lewis. It's the last thing he ever wrote. It's called The Discarded Image, and it's about the medieval model of the universe. I think I could have lived then and just fit in just fine. and I love the music from that era. So that, somehow they kind of work together, I guess. Or maybe they don't, but it works for me to be doing, those. And I guess I would like to get back into fired clay, but I have a kiln, but I don't think I want to. In Maiden Rock, maybe it sounds paranoid, but there's no fire department. I never worried about it in Minneapolis, but the fire trucks come from Lund. I mean, if you live down here, if someone's house it's gone, or their barn, it's gone. So I haven't even. So if anyone is looking for a nice little scut kiln, let me know, because I don't think I can do it at this point. I don't know. I need a place to live. I'm attached to where I live. So I think I think I talked longer than Tom. Did I? Tom, did I talk longer than you?
I have more here, just so.
Okay, so does anyone,